Okay, we need to make sure that you understand what your verb quizzes are going to look like. This trimester, as Spanish 3B students, you're going to be taking present and preterite verb quizzes. It has both tenses on the front side for required credit. You're used to your verb quizzes looking like this. In the present tense, is it a stem changer? Does it have an irregular yo? And what's its definition? But what you're about to start taking are verb quizzes that look slightly different. They will ask you for that information. It will ask you to write what kind of a stem changer it is in the present tense, if it is one, right here, stem changer. It will ask you to write the irregular yo form if it has one in the present tense, right here, regular yo. Definitions are same as always. But it will also ask you the same things that you were being asked when you were taking preterite verb quizzes to the right of the definition. It says also to the right of the definition, write the teacup stem, if it has one, write what happens in the slipper, if anything, as well as write the irregular yo form if it has one in the preterite. So present tense stuff goes to the left of the definition, definition down the middle, and preterite information to the right. What follows in this video is an explanation of that preterite verb quiz info if you've had a little bit of time off. Where they look like this, and it asks you to write the teacup stem, if it has one, or the irregular yo, and write what happens in the slipper, if anything. So let's talk about what we do for these types of verb quizzes. Alright, so the definitions are going to be the same as always. To whatever, to eat, to speak, to drink, whatever. If you are asking yourself, is it a verb with a teacup stem? Well, that means any verb with an irregular stem. And in your notes, you have information that looks just like or similar to this, where it says verbs with irregular stems in the preterite. The stem of tener should be ten, but for no good reason it's tuv. A star should be est, but it's a stuv. And then we have also filled in and discussed the rest of this information. So what that part of the verb quiz is asking you is to fill in tuv, estuv, anduv, kook, pood, poos, soup, whatever you need, if that pertains to any of the verbs on your verb quiz. So example answers are tuv, estuv, kis. You just write that teacup stem right in there. The next category asks you for what happens in the slipper. So if you recall, IR verbs stem change in the slipper. Eat I only or O to U only. So if it's an IR verb that is also a stem changer, your only answers could be eat I or O to U. I'm not sure when we talked about this, but we can talk about it some more if you have questions. But we do have one other thing that happens to the slipper in the preterite. Verbs like leer, which means they have a vowel directly before the infinitive ending, so the letter E before ER, something special happens to them. They change I to Y in the slipper, so the answer for leer is I to Y. And then the verb quiz will ask you, does the verb have an irregular yo? And if it does, to write it. Well, what types of verbs have irregular yos in the preterite? Car, gar, and zar verbs have irregular yos in the preterite, and we have to change the C to QU, the G to GU, and the Z to C. So in this spot here, if you have a car, gar, or zar verb, you're going to write the yo form. The directions say write the irregular yo form. So example answers are toque, yege, and pese. And don't forget, G's and Q's must have tails. Your G has to have a tail going one way, and your Q must have a tail going the other way, so I can tell which letter you meant to have. One other thing that it is worth mentioning is that in the preterite, a verb can only be one of these things at a time. In the present tense, a verb could have a stem change and an irregular yo. But in the preterite, if the verb is a teacup, well, that affects it in all 6 boxes. Let's look at that. Again, if it's a teacup, you take the teacup stem and you put it in front of all 6 teacup endings. So it can't have an irregular yo. It can't be affected in the slipper. It's a teacup in all 6 boxes. And if I go back to this, it's a teacup, that's all it can be. If it's an IR verb, it's not also going to be a car, gar, or zar verb, So it can only be one thing at a time in the preterite. If you have any questions, let me know, but this was just a little introduction to your preterite verb quizzes.